All right, hear me out. Hear me out. TJ Searcy going to be the best first-year starter for the Florida Gators this season.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast and Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Tuesday. I'm Brandon Olsen, and we are talking about TJ Searcy right now because I do think it's important to talk about the first year starters excluding transfers, because obviously when we go, the Joey Slackman, Asa Turner, DJ Douglas, Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, like when we talk about all the guys that come in, they should be held to a different standard than the guys who last year were backups and this year are going to be starters or are expected to be starters, or at least they should be held to different standards, in my opinion. For me, I think TJ Searcy is probably going to be the best first year starter on this team. And I'm not trying to put these unrealistic expectations upon him at all. It's just when you watch the film, you see someone who has great size and has one hell of a motor. I forgot which game it was, but the forced fumble that he had last year was him just chasing down and knocking the ball out and making a play there. And his size, he's listed as 6'5", 255 now. When he came into Florida last year, he was listed as 6'5", 245, so added 10 pounds. But when you watch the film, you see that the quick first step, like, it's not elite, because when we talk about quick first step, I think until the day I die, the player that I say has the quickest first step, the most elite first step I've ever seen, is a Florida Gator, because it's Dante Fowler Jr. TJ Searcy doesn't have that level of quick first step. Again, bigger dude, but he does have that quick first step that gets you on the edge, and then you get to kind of, for lack of a better term, have your way with the offensive tackle there as a pass rusher. It's especially for his size, that's a damn good first step. Like, once they snap the ball, you got going in the backfield. Keep your eyes on the ball. You see the snap, you go. And it's as simple as that, where those like length, motor, that quick first step, those are just pillars, columns that you get to kind of build upon as an edge rusher. You have those few athletic traits that we know will translate, or we know should translate overall. It's also important to talk about with TJ Searcy, which is something that I know a lot of Florida Gators fans didn't like about the last guy that played Jack for the Florida Gators in 2023. That TJ Searcy is a contributor against the run and the pass. Now, we haven't really seen him work in coverage. We've again, very sporadically. And it's also important to remember that when you're talking about these projections, a lot of it does come down to how will they hold up over time. Because TJ Searcy, while his film looked good last year, played 258 snaps, which is still a good amount, still 20 snaps per game. But if you're a starter, that's going to climb up to 38, 44, whatever it may be there. Now, Jordan Castell played, 60 or something like that? So, which defensive linemen never really play like that. But if you can do that over an entirety of a game, then we're having another conversation about just how good you really can be. But from what we saw with him coming in, that's an important contextual part, is that, yes, his film looks good. Yes, he did it mostly while rotating in and out pretty consistently. He played a lot in the Missouri and Arkansas games, I want to say, where he really played a ton. But in this entirety of the season, he didn't drop back in coverage much. So it's hard to say whether they were good snaps or bad snaps in coverage. It's really hard to say that he could do anything with any sort of consistency there, good or bad. As a pass rusher, he does have a bit of room to grow. We've seen him try to work in a bit of a swipe to his pass rush arsenal, but wasn't super effective. It was something that when you watch his high school film, you see him do it a lot. It's just something that he found success with in high school, but college, the SEC is a different beast there. Personally, there's a move that I love that's called the long arm that I would love to see someone like TJ Searcy work into their pass rush. Like you look at the Khalil Max, who Khalil Mack is the best long arm that I've ever seen as a rusher, where you get just on the outside of the tackle and you get so like let's say he's going up against the right tackle. So he's coming from that side. He's going to come in, get his right shoulder or get his right hand on the right tackle's right shoulder. So he's on the outside and then just bully him back. And like that kind of rush that we see, 6'5", 255, looks like he has pretty long arms. Obviously, like wingspan's not really a measurement we get until guys go to the NFL, really. But he looks like he has pretty long arms. Like he looks like a long dude. So, and he clearly has a bit of pop in his punch. Like getting that long arm to work would be massive, not just for TJ Searcy, but for the entire defense as a pass rusher. If you can rush from the outside and push your tackle back and collapse the pocket a bit, quarterback's not going to have much room to grow, not much room to run either. And then you get to make a play in the backfield, or you get to force him somewhere else where another teammate gets to make a play. So I think TJ Searcy, just when you watch the film from last year and you try to look at what parts will translate to something that is long term, like maybe the motor's not as good when he gets tired, which is understandable. But when motor's one of your big traits, your plus traits, over time, if you can't maintain that, that's a problem, right? And I think everybody can agree to that and admit that. We're sticking on the defensive side for the next player that we're talking about. But first, a quick word from LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And it's not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. And it gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. Again, 1 billion professionals. So easy, in fact, that 85% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours of posting. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. And like I said, we're sticking to the defensive side here, and I'm going with Devin Moore. He was not a starter last year as much as many people may have wanted him to be. And he does have that one thing that no matter how you feel about his film, no matter how you feel about his play, no matter how you feel about anybody else's play, and with every player at every position, the best ability is availability. And Devin Moore has not been available. And that's been the big knock on him, which I do think is a testament to him being actually genuinely good at football. Like, the big knock is that he's not on the field enough because he's banged up. And that's kind of it. No one really sits there and goes, he's not healthy and he's bad. Like think back to 2022 with Trey Dean. Trey Dean got hurt, missed a game or two or something like that. And it was like, well, he's not there. And when he is there, he's playing poorly. So we don't care. With Devin Moore, it's always been he's not there and we want him out there pretty much unanimously. It's like the only thing that the Florida Gators fan base can agree upon is that Devin Moore should be on the field when he's healthy. This year, if he's healthy, I do think he's going to be a really good starter for the Florida Gators. Like, loved what he put on tape last season. And I will say, I don't think he's a shutdown guy. Like, I don't think he'll ever be a shutdown corner, which there's what, 4 of them in the world? Like, it's not an easy thing to be. So I don't think he'll ever be a shutdown corner. But he is athletic enough to hold up on his own against pretty much anyone, right? Aside from the guys who are like plus athletes, he's athletic enough to match up with pretty much any of them. Size-wise, he's listed as 6'3", 200 pounds almost. Yeah, I think that you're good enough there to go on the boundary against a bigger receiver. Like, if you go up against a team that has two 6'2", 6'3" receivers on the outside, Florida has Devin Moore that should match up really well against them, and Jason Marshall, who plays bigger than he's listed at. But one thing that Devin Moore does that I almost just dropped an F-bomb to say it. One thing Devin Moore does that I just love from him is that he does everything he possibly can to get a hand in when the ball's in the air. Whether that's actually trying to intercept a pass or that's him trying to just get his hand between the receiver's hands and the ball and try to just knock something out. So I think Devin Moore, especially if we talk about what he can do opposite Jason Marshall Jr., what he can do with Jordan Castell and presumably Asa Turner at safety, defensive back maybe gets answers from last year, the year before that, and every year for the past like 4. So for Florida, like I think Devin Moore is a massive upgrade over what Jalen Kimber was last year, not just because he's a better player, but because he is more likely to create a turnover. And when you create those turnovers, let me talk about widening that margin. It's hard to lose games when you're losing the turnover battle. Like it's not a thing that happens super frequently. When you win the turnover battle, more often than not, you're going to win the football game. And for Florida, they did a really good job of the offense not turning the ball over last year. Like they protected the football. Like the offense did their job of winning within the margins. For 2024, now it's up to the defense to try to widen that margin a bit. Like do better on your part. Because the offense, they didn't fumble much. I don't know the exact number, but they didn't fumble much. Graham Mertz threw 3 picks. That was kind of it, right? And Max Brown threw, I want to say 1 or 2, if I'm not mistaken. But there weren't a lot of turnovers from the Florida Gators in 2023 offensively. The issue with not winning the turnover battle consistently was that your defense almost never forced them. Like you weren't losing the turnover battle, but you weren't winning them because it was just net zero. Having Devin Moore gives you a higher ceiling because he can create turnovers and a lower floor, hopefully, because he's not going to be giving up, 24 yards per catch or whatever it was that Jalen Kimber gave up. So not only is he a massive upgrade because he's better than his opponent or than his replacement, he's a massive upgrade because he's, I think, genuinely a good cornerback. And so having Devin Moore there is huge. If he can stay healthy, that's always going to be the thing for now. Until he proves he can stay healthy, it's going to be if he can stay healthy. And I'll also be curious to see if when he's on the field, if he can tone down the hand fighting a little bit. Because it's fine to be a little grabby. We see it happen a lot of times in college football. Like corners tend to be grabbier in college than they are in the NFL. And you're allowed to do that. And that's a thing that people talk about when we go, oh yeah, like when we talk about corners that are overly physical and we talk about the NFL draft, they go, yeah, like really grabby though. Like it's a thing that happens and it's a problem, obviously. And Devin Moore, he's got, I think, 2 defensive pass interference holding penalties. So he's been called for being too grabby or just getting there a little too soon. But those errors, I'm curious to see if he can tone those down because we've seen them get called on him rotating in, not as a full-time starter. So I'm curious to see, similar to TJ Searcy, where we talk about, will your motor run hot when you're playing 50 snaps a game? Like, will it? And Devin Moore, will you tone down the grabbiness? Because right now you get penalized at a decent rate with more snaps, is that rate going to come down? Because even if it stagnates, that's bad. So I'm curious to see about that. But that's really my biggest complaints are injured a lot, gets grabby at times. Those aren't bad complaints to have. Like obviously they're not good because they're complaints, but that's not a bad situation to be in. I'm not like, oh, he's constantly out of position, doesn't look like he knows what he's doing, can't play man coverage, can't play cover three, can't sit in quarters, whatever it is. No, it's one that you can't really fully control with the injuries. Some injuries, yeah, sure, how you take care of yourself plays a part, but a lot of them are just things that happen. And two, grabby. Not horrible complaints to have there. Flipping to the offensive side for the remainder of this episode, but first, a quick word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the winning formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts. Your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. For the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home some huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Remember that eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. To wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators, we're talking about the offense and we're talking about the offensive line because we are talking about Najee Harris, who, apologies for saying Najee the whole time, up until Billy Napier's recent press conference where he said Kanaiji. I was like, okay, that's what it is. And so I will say that we saw him play a good bit, and if I'm not mistaken, he started one game. I think it was Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken. Micah Mazuka missed the Arkansas game, and Najee Harris started in his place. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Not that sounded so just inappropriately arrogant for no reason. But I'm pretty sure it was the Arkansas game that he started, or whatever game that Micah Mazuka was suspended for. So it was earlier in the year, whatever game it was that he was suspended. Najee Harris rotated in and started that one game and looked pretty damn good while doing it. Which we should also have a conversation with Brian Smith one of these days, Locked On Recruiting Insider, who I know so many of you hate. But we should have a conversation with him one day about how impressive that is, because every time that we talk about a recruit, I ask, can he play from day one? And there's certain positions where we just go, you don't want that position playing from day one. And if they do, they're special. Offensive line is one of those positions where we go, you don't want them playing from day one. And if they do, they're special. For Kanaji Harris, I am expecting him to start at either one of the guard spots. I think the left side is more likely. I think Damian George is more of a right guard, especially in this offense. But so I think Kanaji Harris is more of a left guard here. I do think he's very capable of playing both guard spots, but probably going to see him at the left side this year if Damian George maintains that right guard spot. Who knows? Maybe Florida dips into the portal for the second window and adds a left guard and Kanaji moves to right guard. I don't care. Put your best five or put your five that makes your offensive line as good as it possibly can be on the field. If that's Kanaji Harris at left guard, put him at left guard. If that's right guard, put him at right guard. I don't give a damn. Just get him on the field. And I think one of the main reasons that there's a thing that we talk about, like the NFL draft, like pounding the table for a guy, where if you're in that war room and you're talking about who we should draft here, there's a guy that you really want to pound the table for. Kanaji Harris is that guy for me this year on the offensive line. There's two. There's Rod Kearney, Kanaji Harris, and Jake Slaughter's a non-conversation that people want to have a conversation about. But Kanaji Harris played both guard spots pretty well. and held his own in pass pro. If you can pass block as a true freshman in the SEC, which Najee Harris did pretty damn well of, again, like all freshmen that we're talking about, limited opportunities, sure, but if you could pass block well as a freshman at the SEC, that's impressive. Because generally, we think of the thing that freshmen can do, the thing that's easier to do is run the football. That's one of the reasons that you see a run block. It's one of the reasons that you see so many high schools where it's like, oh, yeah, we run the ball like 80% of the time. It's because it's really easy to teach guys to just go boom and move forward and push people and it's a lot harder to go, oh, well, this is your responsibility in pass protection. Like you got to drop back and a lot easier to teach people how to run block. And so if you can come out of there and pass block immediately, that's impressive. And I don't care how you feel about anybody on the offensive line or Najee Harris specifically. It's impressive to be a true freshman that comes in and pass blocks well. And for Najee Harris, he allowed one pressure the entire season last year. One. Played 200 snaps-ish. It was like 65 at left guard. I think like 88 at right guard. And then a few like moving around sporadically and also going weird with like unbalanced sets. But for a guard to come in and do that, it's impressive. As a true freshman, extra impressive. So I do think that when we talk about when the year's done and we go, oh, which offensive linemen stepped up, which first year starters stepped up, Najee Harris is going to be one of the guys that we talk about as he exceeded expectations. And he's damn good this year. And I do think that he can do that. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk some Florida Gators transfers. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33. And I will see you all next time.